Yo, yo, yo. What to do, peoples? Sorry, I know the break screen or the starting soon screen was up for a second. I'll blame Pinky. Pinky had me distracted this morning, you know? It's Pinky's fault. I'm just kidding. It's not really. It's not really. But I have found out from both Pinky and True that we have issues with Pal World. And it's looking like our server is maybe corrupted. So... starting again, I guess. Starting again. We'll figure it out after the news. There's it sucks, dude, because we had gotten quite a bit of progress done, felt pretty good, but you know, there's they're having issues with these official servers that they're running, and what we're going to probably try to do is try to see if we can't get into a community server that's being hosted by somebody else and run off of that and see what we can do. So we'll see what happens there, and we might be starting a new run today, new Pal World run, which is a little bit unfortunate because tomorrow will be a day off for me, so I'll be missing time that Pinky and True will be playing, and you know, so I'll be quite a bit behind them, so that will kind of suck. But you know, it is what it is. This they definitely need to get their server issues fixed. We kind of saw where maybe this was happening at the end of the stream yesterday. True got booted out the server and was not able to get back in. And ever since, apparently, there have been issues. So Pinky can't get in. I can't get in. Apparently, Pinky was saying the Discord is getting really salty about certain servers, official servers, being completely bonked out to where people can't access at all, even through the dedicated IP addresses and stuff. So I think what we're going to do is try to find a community server being hosted through a different provider and see if we can't rock on that, okay? But... obviously, we got to do what we do, man, which is video gaming news, right, for today, January 23rd, before we can even start to address playing more Pal World. So, let's go ahead and get into what we can find for video gaming news for today. Cool? Let's go. Let's do it. We've already got a couple of things up. Obviously, this is well, this is something that was given to me by Ferret, and this was a showing of the fact that Pal World had already been modded for the pals to look exactly like Pokemon. So it was a Pokemon Pal World mod, which I didn't watch the video, but you can see it right here. Pikachu mining, you know what I mean? Like, there was a, yeah, the video is gonna get copyrighted so hard. I knew it would too, and it sure did. It got taken down real quick. Everybody loved this though. That's pretty funny. So we'll talk about that. And I think what we'll do is, there was a deeper dive with Avowed. Now, we'll watch this. Look, I don't think this is going to appease my concerns that there are with Avowed. I've never been worried necessarily about the game having solid mechanics, solid gameplay, the content being pretty good. It's Obsidian. Obsidian does good work. They produce quality products. They make good video games. Obsidian has for a long time. And so I've never been worried about Obsidian doing something like this. Reject, dude, I've got to apologize to you, man. I've been so flippin' busy. And it's like every day when I start the stream, I'm like, oh, God, I still haven't gotten back to Reject, dude. I will get back to you, dude. I promise. I promise. I will get back to you, dude. I know what you need, and I'll get it to you, man. I've just been so flippin' busy, man. What's up, dude? Good morning. How are you, buddy? Happy Tuesday. I have not forgot about you. I promise you. So Yeah, I know, dude. I just wanted to make sure you know I didn't forget about you, buddy. So how are you, man? How are you doing? The sentiment I'm getting here is the sentiment I'm trying to get across to people here is that my big worry about this game is that it's not going to be deep enough for what I want and what I expected out of a game being built around the world of Aora, about a game and being set in the same universe as the Pillars of Eternity games. I don't feel like it's going to be deep enough for me. When you're talking about a game being set in the same world as the Pillars of Eternity games and what they created there, I want something deep. I want something immersive. I want something as fleshed out as what Pillars was, at least in large part. And I don't think we're going to get that. And I honestly, we're going to watch this today. We will watch this today. And we'll probably watch it to end the video gaming news segment on. And I think that it'll show a deeper dive into what we already know about the game, which is that it'll be a solid Obsidian product. But will it be what Pillars of Eternity fans want out of another game being set in the Pillars universe? I don't think so. I don't think this game is going to be the deep Pillars experience that most of us want out of a game set in this universe. I just am not seeing it. But we will take a look. That's like a 25, 26 minute long video of a look at a Valve though. So we'll take a look at that today. Ooh-wee, no man, baby. So first of all, you're only as old as you feel you are, okay? Yeah? Let's be fair. Most of us are never really going to age mentally past about 14, 15. In many aspects anyways. And, hey man, the older the berry, the sweeter the juice, right? Isn't that what Smokey says? In that case, I'm 60 if it's as old as you feel. That sucks, dude. I'm sorry. Well, hey, man, happy birthday. Here, man, I got you. Happy birthday, bro.
Now that we're friends, is it okay if I pet you?
Thanks, dude. Oh, man, okay. So,
OutsiderAntics gifted nsync_eject a subscription. OutsiderAntics gifted a tier 1 sub to nsync_eject.
I know that. I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I appreciate you, buddy. And happy birthday, man. I mean, I can't do much. It's the least I can do to say happy birthday, dude. Yeah. Happy birthday, buddy. League of Legends publisher Riot Games is laying off 500 employees. Here we go again, man. Pokemon with guns. Why Pal World could become 2024's biggest game. Right now it is. No doubt about it. Right now it is. We've already talked about the plagiarism accusations and stuff like that, and we've already talked about the CEO of the game responding and things. We've talked about. I'm not going to dive into that this morning. We've hit a bunch of that already. See what else we got. I appreciate our peoples, dude. You know what I mean? I really do. Everybody that's a part of what we do, part of this community, long-standing members, stuff like that. So there's not a whole lot that I can do to repay people for what they mean to this community. But if I have the opportunity to at least show my appreciation to some extent, man, I'll take that. I'll take that opportunity to do that on occasion, you know. Am I tripping? Okay, we're good. We good, we good. Yeah, oh, dude, I appreciate that. Yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm glad that even though you came here whenever I was playing The Witcher 3 and listening to me gripe about that game, even though I liked that game, I know that, dude, I griped about that game a lot too. So I'm glad that all of my malding and, you know, griping about the game while I played it didn't turn you off. You know, I'm glad that you stuck around, dude. Yeah. And I appreciate that, dude. It does. It means a lot to me. I mean, the people, obviously, that, you know, I care about you guys. I really do. So this, what we build here is, you know, what it is what it's always meant and has supposed to have been for me. The people that continue to stick around here and be a part of what we do, that's what this has always been about. It's been about, you know, making a nice dude random. It's been about creating an actual long-standing community of people that are. Oh, that's kind of crazy. Okay, so Pepe Panic, dude, and oh wow, okay. Oh yeah. I mean, that's usually the way it works. People come in whenever I play games that already have some years underneath them. You know, usually it'll bring in people that are already big fans of those games, right? Yeah, so I understand that. But I know that, you know... One second. Sorry. I'm also a, I dive pretty deep into my critiques of games, I guess, you know, so I try to really pull out the pros and cons of all the games I play, and I know that quite often that makes me come off as a pretty big cynic, you know, in the way I take a look at video games, you know, and really focusing on a lot of the things that I feel like developers could have done better and stuff, because I don't think there's, you know, enough of that in the industry. I think that a lot of the developers get away with too much on us, you know, too many bad releases and stuff like that. So I know that it can come off that way. So whenever I hear people go, well, I came in because I loved The Witcher 3. It was really good, but it did have issues. So I know that I talked about it a lot, you know, and to hear, you know, that kind of sentiment is like, oh, I came in for the, you know, Witcher 3 and you know, you've been my favorite streamer ever since and stuff. It's like, well, I love to hear that, man, because I know that I talked a lot about, you know, the things about that game that kind of molded me out, and I felt like they could have done better. I tried to talk a lot about the game, the things that were so good about that game too, because I really did enjoy it. But I'm glad that it wasn't a turnoff, I guess, is what, you know what I mean? I'm getting at. And what a fantastic thing, dude, to have, you know, there are certain games that have brought in life, you know, like members of this community, lifelong members of this community, I feel, you know, at least up to this point, whether it be the Pillars games, you know, Pillars of Eternity was a game that brought in certain members of the community and have been here ever since. And those were like, what, the third and fourth or fourth and fifth games I ever streamed in the community. And there's games like Witcher 3 and then Breath of the Wild and that have brought in members. You know, I think Breath of the Wild was actually where we got rated by Still Series and you know, that's the game that brought in like True and Ferret and stuff like that, you know. So there are like these big games that I played late that brought in people, you know. Yeah, brought in a bunch. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and so you know, it's cool to see that. It's cool to see that people and you know, I was critical of Breath of the Wild to an extent too, even though overall the game's amazing. Yeah. One second. Uh-oh. Well, we knew they were pretty similar. Yeah, we'll take a look at this. We knew they were pretty similar. Well, this will go very well with this as well. So, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I remember that too, Soup. What's up, buddy? Yeah, what's up? So, yeah, we'll talk about it. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Let's see what else we got here. I mean, I'll go ahead and just preface what we're going to discuss on that notion. Florida man land. Yeah. Have I seen? I don't remember what it was called. You might be right, Reject. Yeah, I can't remember. There was, you know, through my time right now of playing Pal World, I have absolutely noticed some of the pals that look extremely similar to Pokemon I've seen. But then there are also some that I don't recall ever seeing look anything similar to other Pokemon as well. So that's something we'll have to discuss, you know what I mean, as we address that this morning. Pokemon's former legal boss talking about it too. What's this? I would have to go through here and look at a lot of info. I'm not going to dive through that entire article. But thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Look, I'll say this right now. You know why Pokemon's going to be so pissed? Because they didn't do this first. That's why Pokemon's pissed. Pokemon should have done this a long flipping time ago. And they're going to be pissed off. Mino. Oh, okay. Nice. So, you know, it's not as much, it's not like there haven't been other games that have, you know, copied the Pokemon styled monsters and beasts and stuff to an extent. That's not what is pissing Pokemon off. What's pissing Pokemon off is that this is so successful already and that they should have done this a long time ago. Let's be real about this, man. You know, we've got this up, unfortunately. Riot firing over 500 people. They're not making money off their property. Let's be fair here. Another company is making money off of something that resembles very closely in some aspects their assets. There's a difference there. I mean, look, I'll be fair. You know, I'll be very honest with you. You know, is it good for any company to necessarily like blatantly copy and rip off another company? No, it's not. But at the same time, why has Pokemon not done this? You know what I mean? I'll tell you one big reason why Pokemon hasn't done this. And I've talked about this about Pokemon before. Pokemon doesn't want to dive into this space of trying to generate a live service kind of experience for its users. You know why? Because they make too much flipping money pushing out new Pokemon games every single year, or every year and a half to 2 years, whatever. They make too much money doing it. So they don't want to dive into some kind of big fleshed out experience like this that provides multiplayer and is a game as a service and things like that. Because they see it as being something that is going to be a detractor from what is and has been their long-running monetization scheme for pulling money out of Pokemon lovers, right? But this is something people have been wanting out of this kind of game and world for a long, long time. And so Pokemon's pissed. I want Pal World to win. Oh, really? Did we talk about that? I don't know if we've talked about that. I don't really think so. I think the best they would get, I think the best Nintendo would get, because here's the thing. Like I said before, and we'll talk about this some more as we move forward and get into these specific articles. That's the only front, that's the only front that they could win on, is because there are plenty of these beasts or these pals that I've seen that resemble no Pokemon at all. Resemble no other Pokemon that I've ever seen. So there's no way that they're going to be able to say every single pal that's been made is, a ripoff of a Pokemon. They're absolutely not. Are there some that very closely resemble? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what there could be is maybe Nintendo winning a case on a pal by pal basis, where they would have to look at and actually go into a deliberate process of having to say that each individual pal is a ripoff of a specific Pokemon that they've already made, right? That's the only way that I see Pokemon winning. And the ones that they do get a win on, saying, yes, this is too closely resembling a Pokemon, then that model would need to be changed. But they're not going to win overall. They're not going to win overall. Nope. I really don't see it happening. I really don't. And again, I mean, this is a slippery slope. If they go into a legal, battle again with this and they lose, this sets an entire precedent moving forward for any other company that wants to even remotely resemble Pokemon in their games and get away with it. So Nintendo's going to be very careful here. It doesn't mean they're not going to go after them, but they're going to be very careful about it. Epic Games reportedly eyeing subscription launch. Look. I'm going to pull this up as well. And I want to talk about this. Why is it infuriating to Nintendo diehards? Because it shines a light on how non-progressive Nintendo's been with Pokemon in their own Pokemon games? Is that why they're so pissed off? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. If anything, you should actually probably be thanking Palworld, because if at the very least what this is going to do is be like, you know, a catalyst for hopefully turning Pokemon into something that it should have been a long time ago, and showing Nintendo that Pokemon needs to evolve way beyond what it has been so far. That doesn't, okay, so just because Pokemon evolving doesn't into something more closely related to what we currently have in Palworld doesn't mean it can't still be kid friendly. I'm not saying they need to copy exactly what Palworld has done. Pokemon will always maintain the Nintendo premise of being family and kid friendly, right? But it also doesn't mean that game can't evolve. Yeah? I mean, how long has Pokemon been around as a piece of entertainment? And how long have Pokemon been used in the entertainment as a whole as creatures that help their trainers? But the only thing you get to do with them in the games is fight with them. How have they not taken a look at fleshing that kind of thing out until now? Base building, you know, resource gathering, base building, you know, doing crafting things with your, you know, engaging more with all of the, you know, Pokemon that you gather, and helping to do things like set up a base and build and farm and things like that. There's nothing about that that's adult oriented at all. And there's no reason why they don't incorporate that to make a more immersive, more fun Pokemon universe, right? So they don't have to do exactly the same thing that Palworld's doing, but it also doesn't mean that they can't take a lot of what Palworld has done here and incorporate it themselves. They've had the opportunity forever, ever, and they haven't taken advantage of it. For some reason, I don't understand why. Like I said before, I mean, we all know why they haven't made a live service game. That's evident, right? Dragon's Dogma director should suggest fast travel is for boring games. Ooh. Oh, I don't know about that one. I can tell you there have been plenty of games I have played that felt boring because I didn't have fast travel, or would have felt really tedious and monotonous had I not had fast travel. It depends on the game. But this might be taken out of context, but we'll see here. Nintendo issues DMCA takedowns over Palworld Pokemon mod. Yeah. So let's put this here. We have this. This was given to us by Ferret too. That's funny. Yeah, we've got a trailer up for Avowed. This is like a 26-minute look at the gameplay of Avowed. Okay, we're going to look at this today. So let me say something here. Palworld is dope. Palworld is dope. This is have you guys seen the this is where I think if they would have taken an art direction like this. Have you seen the like the Studio Ghibli kind of looking Pokemon. Have you guys seen this? If they had done something a little bit closer to an art style like this to create their pals, rather than something that was so artistically similar to what Pokemon are, you know, in the way that they're designed and drawn and you know, animated and stuff, they probably wouldn't have an issue. You know, if it was a little bit more of a different kind of art style or something, they probably wouldn't have as much of an issue right now. But I think that's one of the things that is also contributing to such a huge comparison to what the pals resembling Pokemon are. You know, the art style is so incredibly the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the CDPR stuff coming our way. Look, man, my biggest thing is CDPR needs to learn how to release games in a finished state. That's really all I care about seeing out of CDPR. We all know they can make great quality games. The content that they contain in their games is always phenomenal. The thing that they truly suck at is releasing finished products. They suck at it badly. They're terrible about it. So there's no question as to how good they are at developing, you know, content in their games and their products. The question is, can they release a finished product? That's what we need to know. Focus Entertainment is changing its name? Interesting. It's funny how like Pal World was so big so fast. So big so fast that it's literally every day we've done the news ever since it released. It's just 4 to 5 articles every day of us covering things that are happening with Pal World. The game is massively popular, dude. Can you imagine this? This will be the year of closures for games companies. There were a ton last year. There were a ton of layoffs and there were a ton of closures. Could you imagine this being the year, quote unquote, the year of closures? Jesus. I'm going to pull this up. One of the reasons I want to pull up this Joker gameplay and backstory stuff on Suicide Squad is to see, is this going to be a paid character? Free post-launch DLC. Okay. 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 Metroid Prime 4 gets interesting update. Okay. Dude, we got a lot of articles already. Whatever. We're going another page. I don't care. Do what I want.
Ring me on my phone, but there's nobody here. You can find me right at home, playing Gran Turismo. If you ask what I do, I'll tell you it's none of your business. And if you got a problem, I will knock you in the fizzer. Now meet me at the club, cause everyone going. Fresh meat at the club, and the drinks they be flowing. Gold chains, the ice be showing.
Oh, no way, dude. Capcom's Steam Deck verified games are being made unplayable with a new DRM that only punishes paying customers. Gotta love it. Capcom, dude, getting really gross. Palworld developer is receiving death threats. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, dude.
Ring me on my phone, but there's nobody here. You can find me right at home, playing Gran Turismo. If you ask what I do, I'll tell you it's none of your business. And if you got a problem, I will knock you in the fizzer. Now meet me at the club, cause everyone going. Fresh meat at the club, and the drinks they be.
Dude, how many times have I talked about this crap?
The ice be showing. If you ain't got a milli, you best be going. Meet me at the club.
Why are people like this?
Meet me at the club. The drinks they be flowing. Meet me at the club. Everyone going. If you ain't got a milli, you best be going.
It's so disgusting. This is what gives all of us as a like, you know, collective community of video gaming enthusiasts you know, a bad image, you know, because we've got these assholes out there that do things like this, whether it be attacking verbally the developers and stuff. Just dude, the game's a banger, but it's early access. You know what I mean? And even a game that releases that's not early access is bound to have some issues, you know? Does it feel, you know, we've talked about some of the things that feel bad, but you know, you've got to give them time. They're trying to figure it out. And yeah, dude, the game is absolutely, I feel probably, they've got to be elated, right? They have to be elated at how absolutely massive it is, but they also probably didn't even expect it to be close to this, which has presented issues for them, right? And the fact that people can't get that through their thick skulls, dude, you know, is just insane. It shows like how many, you know, there are always these people out there that are just so self-centered, and it's, you know, all they care about is me. Oh, I can't, you know. It's like, do you even understand the like meta of what's going on in this situation? All they see is the micro of it, you know what I mean? Of flipping idiots, dude. Then they do things like this, like post death threats and attack the developers and you know, employees of the companies that make the games in some form or fashion, verbally, or even show up at their workplace or show up at their private residence after they've been doxxed, you know what I mean, with threatening them and stuff. It's asinine, and it is a terribly catastrophic thing to the you know, relationship that we have as consumers and video gaming enthusiasts between us and the developers, the companies that make the games we love and everything. Don't get me wrong, there have been things on both sides that have hurt relationships, but this is one that is always bad from our side towards the developers of games, man. It's terrible. Yeah, that's asinine. I agree. It's so stupid. What up, True? What up, Pinky? I know, man. We've got issues. We'll figure it out, though. You know? We'll figure it out. When's Enshrouded hitting? We've talked about Enshrouded a lot, but it's coming up pretty soon, right? And it's got to be hitting like... Here's what sucks for Enshrouded. Here's what sucks, yeah, tomorrow, right? No, you're good. But I want to hear you sing it, not just sing it in text. I want to hear you belt it, you know, next time we're in Discord. So, no! This is what kind of sucks for a game like Enshrouded right now. You're talking about a survival base building open world crafting game. Unfortunately, you came out, you're releasing like a week after Pow World. You know what I mean? Bro, you know, there'll still be people that play this, but there's not going to be nearly as many people that are going to like switch over and play this that, you know, are invested in Pow World, probably. More than likely. At least not right now. So that's probably going to hurt them a little bit. There's just too many people that are loving Pow World too much right now. And it's the same genre of game, right? So, that's probably going to... Yeah, at least, dude, at least. Yeah. Which is unfortunate for them. Because even if it is a good game, it's just... Pow World's just too big, dude. It's just too big, it's too good, you know? But we will keep track of Enshrouded. I've got it on my wish list. It looks decent. It looks decent, which is why I've been watching it. And if you guys want to add it to your list, there it is right there. But we've talked about it. We've seen the trailers and stuff. I'm not going to deep dive into it this morning. We got enough articles. Let's go ahead and dive in here. No, I mean, I think a lot of people were like excited about the premise of Pow World, right? I mean, we had been watching Pow World for a long time. I've been talking about it for like a year, you know, on occasion. Here and there, I would bring it up and be like, Pow World, you know, look, getting ready for Pow World. You know, I remember whenever me and Pinky, we saw it, I think both saw it at the same time together. It was one of the showcases, right, Pinky? Wasn't it like, dude, it was a while back. It is. That's crazy, dude. Crazy. But yeah, I remember specifically, and I'm sure there were a lot of other people in the community, but I know Pinky and I both were like, oh, dude, this looks awesome. You know, when we saw the trailer, we're like, we're playing this, dude. You know? And so we'd kind of been keeping track ever since. And then when we found out that it was going to be early access in January, you know, it was like, that's probably going to be a play, you know. So, but I expected there to be a pretty good release as long as it was solid enough and with content. And but I didn't expect this. I don't think anybody expected this. This is insane. I mean, the devs didn't even expect this. You know what I mean? I think as a developer, you always got to go in expecting, you know, keep the expectations low so you're not disappointed. That way you don't get yourself into the situation that Bethesda's in right now with Starfield, where you're going in and you're commenting on people's reviews, negative reviews, trying to convince them the game's good and stuff, you know? You get yourself in a bad position if you go in and expecting too much, yeah? Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it's early access. They weren't expecting as much, you know, population and things as they are, so there's some significant obstacles they're having to address. And you know, to hear that people are giving them a hard time about this feels terrible, man. Really does. Oh yeah, no doubt, I agree. We've talked about that a lot. Great amount of content, and you know, I've noted some things that they obviously need to flesh out a little bit more and work on, but for the most part, they have got an absolutely fantastic core for what that game is to begin with. As an early access title, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of potential to work off of. It feels really good already. All right, we've got plenty of, dude, like literally the last almost half of the articles we have up are about Pow World, okay? And we've got a 26-minute video to watch of a deeper dive with Avowed to end the news segment on, okay? So, We'll get plenty of discussion in about Pal World, what's going on with it, the issues with whether Nintendo's going to be trying to, take them into a legal battle or not over this. There's more information on that front. There's a lot of stuff happening here. So we'll get into plenty of talk about Pal World. Let's get through some of these other things first. Metroid Prime 4 gets interesting update. A notable gaming news investigator uncovers multiple clues that hint at Metroid Prime 4 nearing the end of its lengthy development cycle. So bullet points here are Metroid Prime 4 may finally be nearing the end of its development after years of setbacks and silence. Nintendo reportedly conducted quality tests on demo versions of the game around 10 months ago, suggesting progress. It's been claimed that Retro Studios has partnered with Next Gen Dreams 3D, indicating possible collaboration on a trailer for the game. So if you want to read the rest of this, I'll link it for you, but that's the gist of what you need to know. People have been waiting on this for quite some time, and there's been a lot of hype around it. People have been waiting. They want this, and we'll have to see when we get it. But it sounds like it's getting closer and closer. There's your link. Oh Jesus, dude, the Capcom issues. Capcom, could you look any worse right now? Pretty disgusting. I put a few clips in the Discord last night for people, by the way. Not a lot, just a few. Did anybody see the clips? Pinky, I didn't tag you in this one, but I'll edit it and tag you right now. I didn't want to wake you up last night. I'm learning, dog. I was trying to be nice. Yeah. Here, tag you in that one. yeah, I got a few clips up in the Discord. There's the I got some of my mating calls put in from when we were playing Fallout New Vegas. True, if you remember the food talk riling me up, there's that one in there. You're tagged in, and then Pinky with his gifting me these nuts. The clips are in Discord if you guys want to see them. You saw it? All right, bro. Yeah, I'll probably pin that one in there, dude. That way we always have that available, dude. That way people can always get a good look at the let's pin that one before I forget. That's a pretty good one. That was pretty funny, dude. That's worth a pin. Capcom's Steam Deck verified games are being made unplayable with their new DRM that only punishes paying customers. Yo, we've covered this a little bit already. So I will preface this with a little bit of some background on what's happening here if people don't know. So as a result of what happened last year with a tournament taking place where a player, and I think it was actually a host too, had booted up their game with a nude Chun-Li mod activated. Capcom has since then thrown a fit. And we've covered this to an extent. Their most recent thing they've done is actually started incorporating their own in-house DRM, which is basically not allowing anybody to mod their games anymore. So their executable files are being locked down. There's no more modding being done. And let's be fair. Capcom, it's not like they weren't already. I mean, you can go look at their, we've taken a look before. You can go look at the ESRB rating specifically for something like Street Fighter 6. It notes how, scantily clothed the female characters are, and how where the jiggle physics are playing into effect there. I mean, they with each new iteration of their game, they've been playing more towards the sex appeal of their characters and stuff, right? So it's not like they haven't been promoting this anyways, but obviously they don't in-house make it available for people to access characters totally nude, right? Because I mean, how dare you make them totally nude when they could be just clothed in a bikini or something, It's like, so really there's not much difference, right? But I understand it from a business point of view and everything there is, but modders will be modding, right? And to be fair, modders in the gaming community don't just do wild, fun stuff. They do a lot of stuff to improve the quality of games, whether it be from a performance standpoint, quality of life issues that the developer missed on, you name it. They make so many great mods for games to improve the gameplay experience for us as gamers. I mean, currently I'm running like, for somebody that doesn't play with mods very often, I like the vanilla experience to see what a developer did and is bringing to the table for me. I'm playing Fallout New Vegas right now. I'm running like 6 mods that have literally made the game stable for me, because that game, it did not age very well with modern hardware. It crashes constantly if you're not running mods that the modding community built, right? So basically what Capcom has done here, they've implemented their own DRM system that is preventing people from being able to mod their content out. And not only is it preventing modding, but it's also creating performance issues for a lot of their games. And I'm talking, they are incorporating this DRM technology on all of their games. All of their games. From all of their retro games, you know, all the way up to their current games and everything. So, you know, they want to act like this is something that is to benefit them as a corporation and a business, to save face for what happened mainly because of the Chun-Li incident, right? But ultimately, you know, what it's doing is crushing their fan base. And I get it to an extent. You've got to have an outlook as a corporation and a business, and you know, save face a little bit there for these kinds of incidents to make sure that the public is not viewing you as a, you know, corporation that condones maybe, you know, certain things happening with the modding of your titles that might be considered taboo or whatever. But it's not like, again, they haven't been the ones promoting this kind of content in large part anyways. But when somebody, you know, it gets shown off in a big tournament, they throw a fit and they crush the big community and fan base behind their own games by doing this kind of thing. It's really gross to see. It's terrible. It sucks. And there are a lot of people that are very outspoken right now about what's happening here. And this is on the heels of some other things that have happened with Capcom here lately. I'll tell you, you know, from my own standpoint on Capcom in this industry, the current state of the industry, where it feels so hard to find AAA studios that are still decent at creating content and well-performing games. You know, Capcom's one that I had promoted, right? I had promoted Capcom as one of those companies that were still doing pretty solid work, creating pretty solid products, as recently as like the beginning of last year. And then we had things happen like Exo Primal, which was an absolute greed fest. That game felt super repetitive. The gameplay was got very stale very quick. It was obviously something for them. They were selling at a AAA price tag. You could play it on Game Pass. I'll give them that. But if you didn't have a subscription service, you were paying full AAA price tag for that game. And it was just riddled with monetization. Battle passes, cosmetics, you name it, you know. And then just shortly after that, you know, Capcom CEO comes out with a quote, which we have a video of on the YouTube channel covering this, where the CEO was talking about how they feel like they need to raise the prices of their games again, after we just had the price point of AAA retail games raised from $60 US, you know, to $70 US. And now Capcom wants to raise it even higher. Right? When, look, man, everybody knows the price hadn't raised for a long time until last year when the price got to 70. But it didn't need to, because all these companies were getting their money in different ways out of us. DLC, battle passes, cosmetics, you name it. You know, it's not like they weren't getting theirs. Yeah, so the price needing to be raised retail, get wrecked, dude. I don't believe it. You want to talk about inflation and stuff like that? You're getting your money. You found other ways to monetize us, to get your money out of us. The retail price didn't need to raise. You found your way to get your money. So all of that together, this is just like kind of the cherry on top for Capcom right now as far as I'm concerned. But let's read this. Patching in new DRM years after launch seems unlikely to impact pirates, but actively harms legitimate users who play on Steam Deck or mod games they paid for. Following controversy earlier last year around a very risque Street Fighter 6 mod that was accidentally broadcast during an online tournament between Europe's top players, Capcom, this was the Chun-Li situation. Chun-Li was modded to be nude. Capcom has been on something of a warpath against all modding of its games. This has been going on for some time, but until recently there was no evidence of the new Enigma DRM. This is the name of their in-house DRM stuff they're using, being patched into Capcom games, fundamentally breaking compatibility or even mods until now. As reflected in the official patch notes for the version 16.0.2.0 of Monster Hunter Rise on Steam, Capcom's latest edition of Enigma DRM, 2 years after its PC launch with De Nouveau DRM also, has successfully broken game compatibility for paying customers, particularly Steam Deck users. Despite the game's verified status, which was well earned previously, the title now fails to run on Valve's handheld entirely. So what about those accursed mods? Well, according to Fluffy Quack, developer of the Fluffy Mod Manager, used by nearly every modern Capcom game, most Monster Hunter Rise mods will still work just fine. You see, unpaid fans are actually pretty good at making sure their favorite game modifications work, especially when those mods are required to have a good experience on the PC platform. One relatively recent Capcom game on PC still stands out as an example of a game that needs mods to be on par with its console counterparts, Devil May Cry 5. Like I said, how many times has a game been released where the developer didn't want to take the time to actually either a game been released or a game been ported to another platform where the developer didn't want to take the time to ensure that the performance was where it should have been, and the modding community has taken the torch and gone, we'll handle this. Even though it sucks that that's the way it has to be, but it is a tale as old as time in the video gaming industry almost, that the modding community takes care of us where the developers do not, right? Devil May Cry 5 was originally released on PC and console back in March of 2019, but received a special edition re-release for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S with the launch of those consoles that added back fan-favorite modes and features from previous games, as well as real-time ray tracing support. Bafflingly, the PC version of DMC5 never received the special edition updates, despite PC hardware obviously being better suited for its new ray tracing features. Devil May Cry 5 modders can't exactly replicate that, though they can try with SSGI, but all other special edition features have long been restored on PC, some before special edition was even announced. Perhaps instead of going out of its way to punish its happily paying customers on the PC platform with invasive new DRM, Capcom should focus on keeping a positive relationship with its most dedicated fans. Yeah, how about that? As things are now, Capcom seems intent on making sure that pirates are the ones who have the best experience with their games. Adding new DRM this long after launch mostly just feels like misdirected spite aimed at Capcom's own paying customers. Great job, Capcom. Fantastic. Oh man, I don't even really know what to say. It's like, I think Capcom still pushes out quality content. We've seen how well they've been doing with things like Resident Evil remakes, and they've got so many IPs. They make so many games, the Monster Hunter stuff, and they've got Street Fighter that just got released, and people are loving the new Street Fighter game. But a company that's going to be doing these kinds of things and not taking care of their fan base, not taking care of their consumer, deserves to struggle until they figure out that you are not a company worth supporting, until you have a focus of taking care of the people that have gotten you to where you are, being your employees and being your consumers and your fan base. Moving on. Focus Entertainment is changing its name. Focus Entertainment, the publisher behind games like A Plague Tale, Requiem, and Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, have announced that they are changing the company's name yet again. As of April 1st, Focus Entertainment will be rebranded as Pull Up Entertainment. The renaming comes alongside the appointing of Geoffrey Sardin as the publisher's new deputy chief executive officer, as well as a new reorganization of company efforts. Hyper. What? From Focus Entertainment. 1 foot of this appointment, the board of directors was met today, decided to redraw the group's organization to mark a new transformative stage in its development around 3 complementary activities. Firstly, a plan to spin off the group's historical publishing activity, to which the board of directors agreed in principle. This activity would then become Focus Entertainment Publishing on 1 April, led by John Burt, deputy managing director. A division dedicated to the publishing of independent games and retro gaming comprising Dotemu, the arcade crew, which will be managed by Cyril Imbert, CEO at Dotemu and deputy managing director. The studios division, which includes the 7 creative studios, Deck 13, Streamon, 12th Tenths, Leakier Studios, Blackmill, Dovetail, and Carpool Studio. Subject to approval by the shareholders, who will be convened to a combined general meeting on 28 February to vote on changing Focus Entertainment's company name, Fabrice Leroux is delighted to announce that these 3 divisions will be brought together under a new umbrella brand from 1 April, Pull Up Entertainment. They just wanted to come up with something that could be spelled the same way frontwards and backwards, dude. Why? It's a weird name. The name change marks the second time the company has undergone a change. From its creation in 1996 until 2021, it was known as Focus Home Interactive. What's the name supposed to mean? What's the meaning behind the name? Are they all doing pull-ups? Okay, well, there's that, I guess. All right, here, this is for Soup. Soup's super excited about Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad's free post-launch DLC. Need to wear pull-ups to play. Yeah, there you go. I like it. Suicide Squad's free post-launch DLC will include the Joker as a playable character. Each season will be themed around a different DC character. God dang, dude. One of his eyes is cocked like a pistol, son. Jesus Christ. Lazy-eyed Joker? Yeah, what is that, dude? I'd still take it over Jared Leto's version. Too soon? No way. Rocksteady has detailed its plans for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's free post-launch seasonal content. In the 3rd and final episode of its Insider video series, the studio said each season will be themed around a different DC character starting in March with the Joker. They'll also incorporate alternate realities invaded by Brainiac, known as, Elseworlds. The Joker will have unique traversal abilities and weaponry, including a rocket-powered umbrella to launch himself through the open world of Metropolis. Warner said Season 1's free content will include the Joker as a playable character, new Joker-themed playable environment, 2 episodes with new missions, activities and strongholds, new boss fights and enemy variants, new DC villain-themed weapons and gear, new Riddler content. For future seasons 2 through 4, fans can look forward to 3 new playable characters, 3 new playable environments, new weapons, themed gear sets, activities, mid-season updates, and more. The new Suicide Squad video features character insights from actor Jason Isaacs, who voices Brainiac in the game, and new details on the title's social features and 4-player co-op mode. I would love for this game to be good. I really would. I would love for this game to be good. I'm just worried. I'm worried about how repetitive it's going to feel. How they're not going to have enough variety of things for you to focus on doing to make things feel different all the time. It's going to get, I'm worried it's going to feel stale. It's like, you know, defeat these enemies in this spot, or protect this, you know, this spot until, you know, the enemy is defeated, or, you know, it's just going to be the same crap over and 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 over, you know. That's what I'm worried about. I think they've got, you know, the idea here behind this is decent. And we've heard cool things about, like, you know, the quote unquote good guys that have been mind flipped or whatever, right? Yeah, there've already been, you know, reviewers and sites that they got their hands on the game early and have said it's not fantastic. I mean, that was always my problem in the first place, was I didn't see anything that made this look really, really good, you know? And we've already read some reviews that have said the game's not fantastic. It's mediocre, you know, really, is basically what people are saying. And it's like, basically what I'm talking about, you know, they're saying like, well, it's, you know, the combat's not great. It's okay. There's, it's very repetitive. There's not a whole lot of variety in the kinds of missions you're doing. So that also starts feeling pretty stale pretty quick. You know, things like that. From what, I mean, I understand it felt pretty polished and everything, but if the content's not there, it's just not there, right? And so, I think they're, like, what I was getting at was, like, I think they've done some cool things with, and apparently the cutscenes are very good. They've got a lot of comedic relief in them, obviously, because it's Suicide Squad. You know, the cutscenes are pretty solid, but some of the story's kind of wonky from what I understand, and weird. Some of the cool things are, like, you know, like I was saying, the good guys, if you will, like, you know, the Flash and, you know, Green Lantern and those kinds of guys are like mind flipped, and you know, even though they're good guys, they're like the guys that you're like having to fight and attack. It's like the Brainiac dude has them under mind control or whatever, right? So you're having to fight those guys because they're under his control. I think it's something to that effect. But what you'll find is there'll be like areas in the world where you'll just like notice Batman is like hanging out and kind of stalking you and stuff, which is like a cool premise, right? Because that's what Batman always did to all of his like villain enemies too. He would just like be out in the world, and he would just like kind of be in the shadows lurking and like stalking and stuff. And apparently that's what he does in this game as a like non-player character, as like an enemy. He'll just seem like hanging out and like stalking you and stuff, which is a cool premise. So it's not like they don't have some cool things happening in the game, but overall, yeah, what we've heard already is that this isn't great, you know? And it's been exactly, you know, that's what I've been worried about the whole time. Yeah, so I don't think that people should be expecting a whole lot out of this game. I don't recommend people buy into this game early. I don't recommend that people buy this game on release. I think that people should be waiting a couple of days, a few days at least, to see what other players are saying, see what other review sites are saying about what this game content is going to be before you decide whether you want to spend money on it right now or not. Because the thing that sucks also is this is a AAA price tag game. Base game default, you know, you're paying $70 for this game. That's not including how much it costs for any of the enhanced versions, you know, digital deluxe versions or whatever, which are like $100 US. Stuff like that. And then it's heavily monetized as well. There's a ton of battle pass and cosmetics and you name it. I mean, it's all in here to be monetized very, very heavily also. So I think it's something you need to be very careful about. Following several delays, which is also a bit of a flag, The Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League release date is February 2nd. Last month, the PC version's Epic Game Store release suffered a further delay to March 5th. Interesting. So, I don't know. I would say just be careful, man. Be careful with this. I doubt there are any, let me check real quick, but probably no reviews on here yet, but yeah, no critic reviews yet. Probably won't open up for critic reviews until about a week before it releases or something, I'm guessing. But we'll keep track. We will keep track. Dragon's Dogma director suggests fast travel is for boring games. Oof. I disagree. I disagree with that notion. We'll have to see if this is being taken out of context or not. But let me say this. I have played many, many games that would have been an absolute trudge and would have been so rough to play had I not had fast travel. And I have played other games that were, in fact, very, very tough to play through because there should have been fast travel. Absolutely. So to say that fast travel makes for boring games, I am going to disagree on that front. I think it depends on what kind of game you're talking about and stuff, but could you imagine a game like Breath of the Wild with that massive world and just not being able to fast travel around if you wanted to? Pass, dude. I don't want to deal with that. So let's see what the director of Dragon's Dogma is saying here. In a recent interview with IGN, the director of upcoming Dragon's Dogma 2 spoke about the concept of fast travel in games. It was made clear he doesn't like fast travel at all. In the discussion, Hideki Itsuno explained that if fast travel is present, there's a suggestion that it's there to avoid boring travel. To that, he made a damning statement, stressing that it's only an issue because your game is boring. Take it all in. It has been more than 10 years since the last Dragon's Dogma game was released, and fans are excited about the impending release of a follow-up title. In a recent interview with IGN, the game's director spoke about the world building that has been woven into the development of Dragon's Dogma 2. Specifically, he touched upon the nature of making a map that's bursting at the seams with opportunities to explore and uncover all manner of secrets and activities. We put a lot of work into designing a game where you can stumble across someone and something will happen. So while it's fine if it does have fast travel, we decided to design the kind of map where players will make the decision for themselves to travel by bike or on foot or in order to enjoy the journey. In Dragon's Dogma 2, fast travel isn't all that accessible. It's a costly practice that will have the player limiting the number of times they use the function, which is a far cry from most open-world games that may get to the market these days. For instance, Starfield, which launched in September and is riddled with fast travel skips that make space travel almost redundant. Even when a player does make use of fast travel function in Dragon's Dogma 2, they may find themselves ambushed halfway through their journey. That's a similar mechanic to Kingdom Come Deliverance, where players can fast travel, but at any point they can be set upon by enemies and forced to fight before they can resume their journey. I'm okay with that. To completely eliminate the premise of it, though, is in my opinion not a good play, because again, I understand what they're saying here, and I don't totally disagree with this. Limiting fast travel, as long as you're building a very, very good, very engaging world, is okay with me, right? Nobody wants a big, giant open world that is unengaging anyways, right? But we all have been in the predicament where maybe you need to do a little bit of backtracking, but you've already covered most of the area of the map that you're backtracking through, and there's not really a need to see the things you've already seen. You need to go back for something specific. So, in that event, fast travel is very, very useful, right? And so it's not like there's no reason for fast traveling, and that's, I think, one of the better uses for it, right? I love immersing myself in a world. I like seeing everything a world has to offer, different biomes, looking for different things, searching for different secrets, things like that. You know, looting. Good night, looting. But there are reasons why fast travel is a very, very nice quality of life convenience for game players, because usually if you have a big open world, kind of non-linear game, there are reasons why you'll need to backtrack from time to time. And if you've already seen that area before, you don't necessarily want to have to walk all the way through it again.
Step it up. Step it up.
Okay.
Step it up.
That feels better. Yeah, let's go with that. Epic Games reportedly eyeing subscription launch in race for gamers' loyalty. Is this a surprise? Mr. Ferrari. Halfway through what? Through Demon Souls? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, Soup, you're crazy, bro.
Step it up. Step it up.
Epic Games reportedly eyeing subscription launch in race for gamers' loyalty. As gaming consoles and game developers alike compete for consumers' recurring spending, Fortnite parent company Epic Games is reportedly looking into launching its own subscription service. According to Game Rant, a new leak shows that the video game and software developer and publisher may soon announce a subscription service for its Epic Games Store, noting that it appears that the subscription would have monthly and annual plans, as well as possibly the option to bundle the service with EA Play. Oh, Jesus Christ. As it is, Epic Games already offers subscriptions specific to Fortnite, dubbed Fortnite Crew, offering exclusive in-game features and perks for $12 a month US, though it does not have any cross-portfolio subscriptions. Epic Games did not immediately respond to payments requests for comment. More game developers are getting into subscriptions or fine-tuning their subscription offerings. A week ago, for instance, Assassin's Creed owner Ubi relaunched its subscription program, combining two existing services under the name Ubisoft Plus Premium and adding Ubisoft Plus Classics on PC. Yeah. The previous two paragraphs there were just talking about all the other subscription services that are there, and obviously we're continuing to get more and more. Certainly the demand is there, with consumers dedicating plenty of time to leisure. A payments intelligence study of more than 4,600 consumers in July found that consumers spend an average of 4.7 hours per day, or 27% of their time, on leisure activities on a given workday, and that figure jumps to 6.9 hours on weekends. There's a lot of statistics in here I'm not going to cover, as they're not really pertinent. As Epic Games considers the launch of its subscription service, it will need to navigate this highly competitive landscape, offering unique value to hold its own against the stiff competition in the space. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. If you want to see the statistics that I skipped over and stuff, here you go. Take a look. Oh, God, we can't go a single day, man. We cannot go a single day in the news without covering this kind of thing. And it's always new layoffs. League of Legends publisher Riot Games lays off over 500 employees, shutters Riot Forge. League of Legends publisher Riot Games has cut 11% of its staff, resulting in 530 layoffs. The major company restructure will see the company's entire Riot Forge studio shut down and include cuts to the Legends of Runeterra development team. I know, dude, it's crazy. Riot Games announced the move in two blog posts on its website. One details the scope of the layoffs and outlines how severance is being handled. The other goes into Riot's vision for its future, which is linked here, which will double down on established games like League of Legends and Valorant, as well as its upcoming fighting game, Project L, which looks really solid, actually. Our vision for the future is bold, and our commitment to our core live games, League of Legends, Valorant, Teamfight Tactics, and Wild Rift, is more ambitious than ever, the blog post states. We're prioritizing these teams so they can focus on the content, features, and updates that directly respond to what you've been asking for. Expect events, modes, and long-term roadmaps that lead to vibrant, hopefully multi-decade futures for these games. The biggest change is that Riot end all new game development at Riot Forge. The publishing label was founded in 2019, worked with smaller studios to create games in the League of Legends universe. The label produced several critically acclaimed titles, including The Mage Seeker and Song of Nunu. Impacted employees will receive 6 months of severance and keep access to the Riot email accounts for an unspecified period of time after being informed of their termination. The news continues a worrying trend for the video gaming industry, which has laid off thousands of workers in the past year. In 2023, game companies laid off an upwards of 6,500 workers. I actually saw that it was closer to 8,000 for the gaming industry and well over tens of thousands for the tech industry as a whole. That number has continued to rise in the first month of 2024, with Riot layoffs ballooning that count significantly. Yep, it has just leaked straight over into this year as well. Unfortunately, feels terrible. Hate to hear it. Heart and thoughts go out to those people losing their employment status with Riot, and hope they find something better moving forward, man. Okay, everybody ready to talk about Pal World? Because we got like 5 more articles this morning, dude. It's just polluted, man. It's so popular, and there's so much going on with it. So let's start with this. Nintendo issues. So I was made aware of this firstly by our buddy Ferret yesterday. So Ferret actually had hit me up in Discord and posted this towards the end of the stream yesterday, where there was a video, but it's obviously got DMCA'd really quick. Pal World already had a Pokemon mod. You can see some of the like here's an image from it. I'm flipping Pikachus out here, dude. They're like your Ash, and there's your Pikachus mining for you and stuff. You know, it's pretty wild. Everybody was tripping, dude. That's so funny, man. It's so funny. But League of Legends. Oh, wait. We'll go into this now. So Nintendo issues DMCA takedowns over the Pal World Pokemon mod, though. I mean, as expected, right? So Nintendo started to issue DMCA takedowns over the Pal World Pokemon mod that began to surface online yesterday. Pal World Pokemon mod was first shown off by Twitter user @ToastedShoes, who revealed 24 seconds of what the mod entails. It included turning your main character into Pokemon's lead, Ash, or former lead, as well as turning all of the pals into Pokemon. The first mod pack for Pal World is already out, and it's an overhaul converting everything into Pokemon. Everything from the playable character being Ash, from his friends Brock and Misty, to even all the Pokemon that inhabit the world. Toasted Shoes said in the original video. The Twitter video has since been removed with the text, "This media has been disabled in response to a report by the copyright owner." Toasted Shoes took to Twitter to say, "Nintendo has come for me. Please, leave me in your thoughts and prayers." Presumably the full video of the mod will no longer be uploaded to YouTube as promised, given that Nintendo is now actively removing content. Yeah, as we know, Pal World has become an overnight success. As of yesterday, it had surpassed 5 million unit in sales over just being out for 3 days in early access. And as of yesterday, the player base was already at 1,582 or 1.582 million players. So, yeah, despite its success, though, the game has received some criticism due to plagiarism and accusations of Pokemon. Nintendo is yet to comment on whether they will be trying to take any legal action. This is a slippery slope for them, so we have to wait and see. But here's the thing: we talk about this. Let me pull this down here. We'll talk about that. So first, let's hit on this. Pokemon's former legal boss says Pal World looks like a rip-off nonsense. I'm just surprised it got this far, says Don McGowan. The former chief legal officer for the Pokemon. Oh, dude, did it? Second place on concurrent players? Wow, that's crazy, dude. That is crazy. International has said that the breakout hit Pal World looks like rip-off nonsense. look, here are my sentiments. As I said before, there are some of these pals that do very closely resemble other, Pokemon I've seen. Then there are also some of these pals that resemble no Pokemon I've ever seen before, ever. And to be fair, a lot of what this game is something far beyond anything Pokemon's ever been. So, is there I think, case-by-case basis for maybe Pokemon and Nintendo to go after Pal World on a case-by-case basis, individually looking at each PAL to see if it's maybe infringing on likeness rights of their own Pokemon. Maybe. But overall, I think, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, I think one of the big issues, here is the art style. The art style and the animation style and everything. I think had they gone maybe a different art style and animation route, like the artistic style that they used for the pals is one of the things that makes them so Pokemon-like also. Had they used a different art style and it wasn't so Pokemon-esque, then there probably wouldn't be as much of an uproar over this, right? And I'll give you an example in a moment, but let's read the rest of this first. Don McGowan, who led the Pokemon Company's legal team for almost 12 years, was commenting on the game and claims that its developer Pocket Pair plagiarized designs from Nintendo's game series. Quote, "This looks like the usual rip-off nonsense that I would see 1,000 times a year when I was chief legal officer of Pokemon," he told GameFile. "I'm just surprised it got this far." Pal World is described by its creator as an action-adventure survival game, which players can battle and capture pals to use for base building, traversal, and combat. Despite its significantly different tone and game style, many of Pal World's monsters' designs bear striking similarities to Pokemon's, earning it the internet nickname Pokemon with Guns when it was revealed last summer. But following its massively success release for PC and Xbox last week, an anonymous X account appeared online claiming to show evidence of not just design inspiration, but plagiarism of actual assets from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. On Monday, Pal World director and Pocket Pair CEO Takuro Mizobi published a response to allegations of plagiarism. While he didn't deny being influenced by Pokemon, he said the game's artist had received online abuse and called for it to stop. "We are currently receiving abuse and defamatory comments against our artists, in addition to tweets that appear to be death threats," he wrote on X, translated by VGC. "While we have received various opinions about Pal World, it is important to note that the supervision of all materials related to Pal World is conducted by a team, including myself. I bear the responsibility for the produced materials. I would appreciate it if these comments towards artists involved in Pal World would cease." Yep, that's gross, and we're going to talk about that in a second as well. So, staying on this specific topic here, yeah, there's a difference between taking ideas from different pieces of entertainment and incorporating them into your own products, as long as you're making them uniquely yours, and absolutely copying things, though, directly, right? So there's a big difference between that, and that's what the deliberation is here. This is what the everybody's trying to discern is which one is it, right? So, to accidentally create a complex model mesh with so near exact proportions is practically impossible. To repeat that improbability throughout your roster doesn't pass the sniff test, says Eric Covington. That's true. This is a Japanese company as well, though. So the stricter copyright laws in Japan, that means that Nintendo being in Japan. So let's cover a little bit of this. Let's look at this real quick. Eh. But just because it's bigger, it covers the whole thing? I mean, that's hard to tell, really. Bro, that's not even the same model. That's not even the same model. And I guess they're trying to show same proportions kind of and stuff, but yeah, I mean that's what I was getting ready to talk about too. Like this one's actually probably the closest one I've seen to proportion wise. These other two, it's like, well, this model just trumps the other one. This is fairly close. This is fairly close. That's kind of what I was going to get at too, Pinky. I mean, I think that and this is something you'll see a lot as a content creator also. So in regards to what this is and what they're trying to showcase here and trying to say that this is the same exact thing, it's not really. You know, it's the same thing with any kind of music. Quite often what will happen is you'll have music that's supposed to be like DMCA free or whatever, or you'll have a sound effect that pops off or something like that, you know, and you'll upload something to YouTube, right? YouTube has like an automatic kind of underlying system that listens for anything that sounds like copyrighted music or copyrighted sounds. And there's so many times where like, dude, I used to have an air raid sound effect for whenever we would get raided in the channel. It would get caught for being a piece of copyrighted music because there's songs that have an air raid sound in them and stuff. You know what I mean? It's similar to that kind of thing. You know, there's so many assets out there, so many things that have been created that it's inevitable that some things are going to look similar, you know, and like, you know, I was talking with our buddy Cash yesterday. This is part of entertainment. Part of entertainment, whether you're talking about music or literature, you know, you talk about poetry, you talk about any kind of artwork, you know, in any kind of medium. It's inevitable that if you are devoted to those kinds of, you know, pieces of art and you're diving into it all the time and you're also an artist yourself, that it might not even be an intentional thing, but because you're always consuming art, right? You're always consuming that kind of art and you're also generating that kind of art, that sometimes your brain's just going to work off of the things you've seen and been a part of and been consuming, and it's going to regurgitate it to an extent, you know? So it's hard for me to just go like, well, yeah, this is obviously a deliberate, and we all know that there's to an extent always been an amount of emulation in the gaming industry for sure, right? There are things that video game companies do very, very well that get emulated by other companies all the time, but they do something to make it uniquely different in some aspects, so it can't be called plagiarism. It can't be caught for copyright. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with this in whole. You know what I mean? This one's fairly similar. And is this the same one, or is this, were they just showing these together? I don't know what was going on with this one necessarily. And I'm not a digital artist or anything either, you know. I'm not. So I don't know all the ins and outs of this. From the article, quote, "You cannot in any way accidentally get the same proportions of multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least tracing them meticulously first." One senior character artist told VGC anonymously, adding, "I would stand in court, testify as an expert on this." Who's going to determine that you're an expert on this, though? They explain, to give you an idea of how impossible this is, sometimes we have to copy one mesh to another when we make sequels to games. For example, redrawing an NPC from one game to another. And even when we rework those old models, they only sometimes match this closely due to rigging changes that might need to happen. There have been times when dozens of artists are given the same concept art to create a 3D model, for example. During art tests for jobs, I've seen 30 artists try to make the same horse using the exact schematics. None were as close to each other as these Pal World models are to the Pokemon models. None. The silhouettes and proportions here are near perfect matches. Here's my question. If this is the case, how did they get the models to just copy them? It's not like Nintendo's handing these out, right? They'd reverse engineer the game and just pull the models out or something? Eric Covington, the guy that posted all these videos and everything. My intention in posting this is not to aim pitchforks at the Pal World team, but to offer a cautionary tale to would-be developers and artists. Please do not cut corners. You increase the risk to your project, your company, and the credibility of your teammates and peers. Do I suspect there will be legal action taken from Nintendo, the Pokemon company? I would say it's likely, knowing how litigious they've been in the past and knowing how strict copyrights are in Japan. Why haven't we heard of anything yet? They take time. For generic ideas, courts have applied a legal principle known as the merger doctrine, where copyright protection is not guaranteed to monopolize ideas. However, specific expressions of ideas are subject to copyright protection. Yeah, I think there are different ideas about what's going on here. Yeah, so like Eric's talking about here, while Steamboat Willie's Mickey Mouse is now public domain, even up until then, you could still create a cartoon about a talking mouse with gloves on, but once you drew those 3 iconic circles for the character design, you would have crossed a line. And this is the real convoluted thing about like what we were talking about before. Are there some of these pals that very closely resemble some other Pokemon? Absolutely. I don't think there's any denying that. But what is it that definitively makes them stand out as being a different asset, a different thing than what those Pokemon are? Can it be definitively identified as something different? That is what's going to save Pal World and the Pocket Pair. That's what's going to save Pocket Pair with these creatures they've created. If they can show that they are definitively different in unique ways, then that's what's going to cover their asses. Really, I think that's what this comes down to. Dude, we were just talking about this earlier, dude. Nintendo will likely be looking at the following cases: Tetris Holding, LLC versus Zhao Interactive, 2012. We were just talking about that earlier. That's crazy. And Spry Fox. We'll see. We'll see. For me personally, it's hard to tell. I'm not a digital artist. I'm not. So, I don't know all the ins and outs of this. I'm not saying they did. I'm not saying they didn't. I don't really know. I want to believe that they didn't, because I like the game. I want to believe that they're not doing, stuff like this. I hope they didn't. But there's always, the case that there was influence. I mean, there's no doubt influence here. You don't want to see copying. There's no doubt influence. You don't want to see copying. You don't want to see plagiarism. That's the big issue. There's no doubt influence. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this issue anyways. Here's the thing that I want to say. I think one of the things that would have saved them a little bit of guff is had they not gone for the same exact flippin' art style. I mean, dude, they look artistically just like Pokemon. Had they done something a little bit differently artistically, which still could have been an appealing thing for the game. Like, I mean, I look at like, and I'm just giving an example. These are pretty detailed models here because they're hand drawn and everything. But if you take a look at like what maybe these Pokemon drawn as like Studio Ghibli characters, you know what I mean, is an example of how different Pokemon can actually look from what their original models are when they're done in a different kind of art style, right? I think had they maybe gone for a bit of a different art style than what Pokemon is, they would have been a little bit safer on what's happening right now too. But Jesus, it's so obviously... I agree, Pinky. I find it to be very off-putting, you know? And I think that's why we've seen so many other... there have been an amount of other companies that have been able to come out with their own, you know, animated monster kind of IPs, right? But it's not like Pokemon hasn't taken down a lot of other ones too. And I do find it weird. And look, man, I think that one of the reasons Nintendo's probably going to go after Pal World is because they're pissed off. I think that they're pissed off that they haven't done something like this first to take advantage of the you know, potential that this had, you know. And that's kind of where I'm at too. I want whatever happens here. I'll be honest. I kind of just want Pal World to win. I don't want them to have been deliberately copying, you know, assets. That's not a good thing, dude. That's just not a good practice. We all know that, right? So I mean, that's my big concern. I don't want that company to. I don't want them to have been using AI. You know what I mean? I don't want them to have been using, you know, copying assets or anything like that. But I want them to succeed because, you know, I find it to be refreshing to have something like this doing so well. Whenever, honestly, this is something that I think Pokemon's just pissed at because they didn't do something as elaborate like this, which they should have done a long time ago. And they're pissed that another company is making so much money off of it and doing so. They're so successful with it, you know. 6 million sales in 4 days. Yeah, they're pissed. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that the most that will happen here, I think, is it'll be a case by case basis on each individual PAL, where they might be able to say, well, this one's too similar to this Pokemon. This PAL's too similar, not unique enough. And then that model would have to be altered or something. I don't think as a whole they'll be able to take down Pal World. I don't see it. I personally don't see it, dude. What up, Tim Win? What's going on, broski? I have the Avowed stuff up. We're going to watch it, dude, in just a moment. We're almost done with all this Pal World news. Thanks for the Avowed video and the info that came out, by the way. So this is what's funny to me, too. And I'm going to flesh this out a bit. So Pokemon with guns is a smash hit and infuriating to Nintendo diehards. You know, I think that if you're a Nintendo diehard, as it were, and a diehard Pokemon fan, you shouldn't be pissed. You should be excited at the premise of what this should be doing to prompt Nintendo to take a really, really hard look at evolving what Pokemon is, which should have been done a long time ago. Obviously, Nintendo's pissed. They are upset that another monster collecting game is doing so well. And, GG Soup. And I think that this is the wrong way for Nintendo fans to look at this. If anything, Nintendo fans should be looking at this as a glass half full situation. Obviously, a Pokemon game would never be created in the same exact way as Pal World, right? It's, some of the more violent features, weapons, guns, and stuff like that aren't going to be incorporated. But it doesn't mean Pokemon can't still evolve to where you're using a lot of your captured Pokemon to be more useful in the game for, incorporating base building, resource gathering, stuff like that, to be fair, a lot of the other forms of entertainment in the Pokemon world have always presented an image of the Pokemon being more useful to their trainers than just combatants, man. Just things to fight with. And I feel like Pokemon has done, Nintendo has done themselves a disservice by limiting what they've done with Pokemon for such a very long time. Yeah. Now, let's be fair. Pokemon will never become a live service game because they like to release these games too often. It's like Call of Duty or, any of the sports games. The more often they release a Pokemon game, the more people are buying it, the more money they make, right? So, as a live service option, that's not going to be there. We all know Nintendo won't do that, right? But Nintendo should have done something more fleshed out with Pokemon a long time ago. I don't know why they haven't. Pokemon with Guns is a smash hit, and Nintendo diehards are pissed, apparently. The viral video game... no. Viral video game Palworld, referred to by fans as Pokemon with Guns, is attracting players by the millions. It's also got fans of Japan's legendary Pocket Monster franchise outraged over perceived similarities. Japanese developer Pocket Pair sold 5 million copies of Palworld in 3 days. That's going to be more now, like Tinwin just said, right, just a second ago. 6 million now. The company announced Monday on X, on the video game marketplace Steam, 1.6 million people simultaneously play Palworld on PCs, putting the game number 1 in the current standings and marking the third highest total ever for that service. Microsoft Corporation's Xbox division is also distributing the game on its consoles and Game Pass subscription service. In Palworld, players work together to capture monsters, build bases, and survive the elements in a cartoonish fantasy world. Unlike those similarities to Pokemon, which aims to be kid-friendly, Palworld players can shoot pals with guns to catch them and train them. The game is in early access with no full release date planned. Gamers are debating the similarities in blog posts and on social media. Some Pokemon lovers are clearly outraged. Pocket Pair CEO Takuro Mizobi wrote on X that developers at the company are receiving slanderous comments against our artists, even tweets that appear to be death threats. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. How disgusting, dude. Palworld was the right game at the right time, said Serkin Toto, chief executive officer of Japanese consultancy Kantan Games. Adding a prominent multiplayer element to a monster collecting game is a winning format, he said, especially when it's combined with two other popular genres, shooter and survival. In fact, many gamers would say Palworld more closely resembles a hit title, Ark Survival Evolved. Yep. While the Pokemon brand has never been more popular, Nintendo Company's last few Pokemon games have received mixed reviews. The video game site IGN gave Pokemon Scarlet a 6 out of 10 and Legends Arceus a 7 out of 10, with the reviewer describing both as feeling unfinished. Toto suggests Palworld's resemblance to Pokemon is a primary draw. Of course, it's a well-made game and the mechanics play a role, but nobody would talk about this game like they are right now if the designs weren't as reminiscent of Pokemon, Toto said. If you change the characters, the game would be far away from the success we're seeing. Neither Nintendo nor Pocket Pair responded to requests for comment. Yeah, that's not surprising right now. Brandon Huffman, founding attorney at Odin Law and Media, said Pocket Pair has little to worry about. In the past, he said, there was some reputational risk when a game company took inspiration from a past hit, but today, especially with survival and battle royale games, there's a strong precedent for adopting colleagues' ideas. Huffman's colleague, we just talked about this kind of thing just a moment ago. Huffman's colleague and fellow attorney Connor Richards, who played 10 hours of Palworld over the weekend, said most of the pals don't really look like Pokemon. I agree. There are some similarities. Most of them, though, I don't feel like look exactly like Pokemon. Several look like similar takes on generic animals, and the more complicated monsters, he said, aren't exact copies. Exactly. None of them give you the impression that they're supposed to be the Pokemon, Richards said. Despite the social media controversy, Palworld continues to receive rave reviews on Steam, where it is rated very positive in an average of 45,000 reviews. Yeah. Tinwin says, this is a Pokemon. To be fair, this is a Pokemon ripoff. If Nintendo did put Pokemon on PC, most likely see way bigger numbers than Palworld. They won't, because I don't know, afraid of mods. Well, I mean, that's always been Nintendo's thing. I've talked about this as well. Whether you talk about Nintendo or whether you talk about Sony, you know, they're more traditional console players, and they're all about that proprietary first-party software, and they've been very, very reluctant to branch out into putting their content on other platforms, right? Xbox obviously has become a console player that has adopted that notion, in large part because they had to figure out ways to be more competitive in the console market, and it's played very well for them. Sony is following suit now. They've, for a while now been slowly getting their games on PC and stuff, but I don't see Nintendo adopting that. But it doesn't mean they can't still make the same kind of game on Nintendo's platform, to an extent anyways, right? It's not like it has to be a PC game, right? It's not just a Pokemon ripoff, though. I mean, this is obviously takes some influence from a Monster Gathering game, Pokemon-esque. There's definitely influence in the Pokemon, the pals being influenced by Pokemon to an extent, right? But Pokemon's never been a game that ever had anything as far as the same kinds of mechanics and incorporations that this game provides, right? Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, my bad, dude. Yeah, sorry. I missed the quotations there. Yeah, sorry. And we've talked about that before, too. They would most likely see way bigger numbers than Pal World. They won't. Yeah, so we've talked about that. Their reluctance to dive over into the other. But, I mean, the reason they don't and won't is because, for them, they're so traditional. And if we put our content on other platforms, nobody's buying Nintendo hardware anymore, right? That's the way they see that. That's what it's. So I apologize, Tim Wynn. Yeah, that's my bad, dude. I wasn't looking at the quotations. So that's the way they see that. That's the way they've always seen that, and that's the way PlayStation is in large part too. That's why they're so reluctant to put their stuff on PC. They're finally doing it, but that's like they don't want to put their stuff on Xbox, and that's why Nintendo doesn't want to put their stuff on any other platform. They want everybody buying their hardware, right? Absolutely. Yeah. That's what Pinky just told us a little bit ago, that when Pal World officially took over CS:GO. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Yeah, Pinky just told us as soon as it happened. He was watching it in real time. He was watching it in real time. It's just right up above you there in chat a little bit. Yeah. So this is the last thing. So this is something that's unacceptable. This should never happen. Okay. I don't care how disgruntled somebody is about getting a ban on an account, or whatever the case may be, a game not performing to you guys know how outspoken I am about performance issues and stuff like that. I would never, ever stoop to the point of, threatening anybody about it. This is absolutely unacceptable. And the people that do this kind of stuff should be tracked down and have formal charges filed against them for doing this kind of stuff. This is disgusting. Threatening people. This is disgusting and unacceptable. This is one of those things I've talked about a lot when it comes to what we discuss when we're talking about like the harmed reputation and relationship between what has happened over the years, the relationship between us as consumers and gaming enthusiasts and the gaming community, and developers and publishers and stuff, right? And there's been stuff on both sides, don't get me wrong, but this is one of the worst things that happens from our side of the coin as gaming enthusiasts and consumers. And most of us don't do this. Most of us would never consider ever doing anything like this. But it's the few that will and do, whether it be on social media, threatening, physical violence or verbal abuse or whatever, or even to the extent of showing up at the workplace of these developers, or even, some of these people have been doxxed to where these crazy individuals have shown up at these people's private places of residence, which is so flippin' creepy and wholly unacceptable. You know, these are things that make it to where developers want to shut down lines of communication. They don't want to have lines of communication open with us as a collective gaming community because they're afraid of this happening. And that's what sucks for the majority of us that would never conduct ourselves in this manner. We would never do anything like this, but there's the few that will, that need to be ousted and gotten rid of and don't need to be a part of this community as a collective gaming, mind or whatever anymore, because this is terrible and unacceptable. Palworld Developers says it's receiving death threats. So the developers around the overnight sensation Palworld are dealing with more than just pushback against the game. According to multiple people from Developer Pocket Pair, developers and artists of Palworld have been receiving death threats. The threats seem to stem from allegations against the game for being a ripoff of Pokemon. Frantically working through all my DMs and emails, I promise, community manager Bucky said on Twitter. However, you'll excuse me if I skip over the death threats, threats to the company, and massively outlandish claims. The studio CEO Takuro Mizobi also took to Twitter to condemn the threats. Currently, we are receiving slanderous comments against our artists, and we are seeing tweets that appear to be death threats, he said. I have received a variety of opinions regarding Palworld, but all productions related to Palworld are supervised by multiple people, including myself, and I am responsible for the production. I would appreciate it if you would refrain from slandering the artists involved in Palworld. Whether there is justification for the claims of Palworld plagiarizing Pokemon or not, going as far as to issue death threats for any reason, let alone a video game, is not okay. And should never happen. Absolutely. This is disgusting. We should never, ever, ever see this. This is insane. Literally, anybody that does this is out of their mind. This is not okay. So, another day of news since Palworld has released, and another 5 to 6 articles we have to cover. This game is massively huge. Massively huge. And it's incredible to see how much it's growing as, the amount of retail sales continue to increase, and the concurrent player count continues to just balloon incredibly. This is just an absolutely incredible thing to see. An indie developer as well. We love our indie developers, right? And I mean, dude, does the game have its issues? Yeah, it's an early access game, but the core of what it has is phenomenal. I mean, to be fair, I think our server that we were playing on, one of the dedicated servers from Pocket Pair themselves is corrupted now, and we have to we're gonna have to start a new playthrough today. But the game's good enough that we're actually considering losing 2 to 3 days worth of game time and just starting over because it's so much fun. So I mean, they've got a great core here. It has its rough edges. It's early access. People have to understand that, man. I'm sorry, true. People have to understand that it's early access, but for what the game is right now and the amount of content that it contains, it's pretty phenomenal. It's got, it needs some love. It needs a little bit of spit and polish, it needs a little bit of it, a dedicated look at a little bit better quality of life in certain areas. And the premise of what the game's bringing to the table is insane, and what they already have as gameplay here in the game for everybody is phenomenal. And what the potential of what the game, I feel, has moving forward for us also is just incredible. It's a great mashup of game genres together that works very, very well. They've done a great job of putting this stuff together. So we'll just have to see what happens moving forward, but I'm hooked, dude. I'm hooked right now. I know Pinky's having a great time, True's enjoying it, and we'll see who else we get in here, man. But I'm loving this right now, and I can't wait to start over again today. Now, who's ready to watch some Avowed gameplay? Oh, right on, Tinwin. Cool, man. Right on. You'll have to let me know. I'm not planning on playing it right now. So if you do play, you'll have to let me know how it's evolved. And dude, let me know if they ever get that game to a point where they allow you to use resources out of your straight out of your containers and stuff, because that was the biggest drawback for me. It got so terribly I hated dealing with that. So let me know if they change that. Good to know though, dude. So I'm gonna start this up, and as I start this up, this will be the final thing that we cover for the news this morning. If anybody has anything else to add, let me know. We'll address it before we finish up here today, but this will take us to the end of the news. I'm gonna grab some coffee. I'm gonna refresh my coffee. I'll be right back, but I'm gonna start this up. Okay, let's go. Thank you, Tinwin, for linking this to me yesterday. Let's see what the extended showcase of Avowed gameplay brings to the table. Again, I think, let me just preface this real quick.
Games in this podcast range from...
I think that Avowed is going to be a solid game. Yo, GG Soup, nice. I think Avowed is going to be a solid game because I think Obsidian makes very good quality products as video games. Solid content, they play well, they usually are very good experiences. My big issue is that I'm not going to be getting the kind of experience that I expected to get from another game being set in the world of Aora, in the universe that the Pillars of Eternity games built. You know, I want that same deep, immersive kind of experience that I got with Pillars, but in a first-person experience. And I don't know that I'm getting that, you know? I don't know that I'm going to get that same experience, and therefore that's a bit concerning for me. So I don't have a lot of questions or reservations about whether or not Avowed is going to be a pretty solid gameplay experience because of who the developer is. Obsidian is a very, very, very good developer. They have been for quite some time, and they've continued to show us they can make good products. My question is surrounding whether or not this is going to be something that scratches the itch that I was wanting for something built in this universe. And I'm really concerned it won't. I'll start this up. Let me grab some coffee. I'll be right back.
E to M. Hello and welcome back to the official Xbox podcast. My name is Tina Amini. I'm here with my fellow co-host Jeff Rubenstein, but we also have two very, very special guests for this very special, relatively shorter podcast episode. We have Carrie Patel here from Obsidian, as well as Gabe Paramo from Obsidian. Can you guys introduce yourselves just briefly, what you do at Obsidian and on Avowed?
My name's Carrie Patel. I've been at Obsidian for over 10 years now, and I'm the game director of Avowed.
My name is Gabe Paramo. I'm the gameplay director, and I've been at Obsidian for about 5 years.
Cool. We'll delve into those roles a little bit. But first, we're actually recording this a little behind the scenes here, right before the Dev Direct goes live. Like, how does it feel like you're just about to share Avowed with the world?
It's so exciting. I mean, I know the team has put so much hard work into this game, and we're going to get to see a little bit of that in some of the footage we're looking at today. And so it's really rewarding knowing all the love and polish that's gone into this to finally get to show people where Avowed is headed.
Maybe I'll put my camera somewhere else for
being
now.
down at Irvine, filming with you guys for Developer Direct, so I got to be behind the scenes, and it was very fun to see the office.
Will that work?
See everybody busy working, but also excited to present about the game. And we're gonna, in just a minute, see actually some extended footage from the Developer Direct, so it's very exciting. But let's talk about Aora first, because we are in Aora. That's part of a world that you guys have built previously for the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Hopefully that'll give
so
everybody
we
a
know
better
that that's
view of
very
everything that's happening on the
of
screen.
course, but in Developer Direct, you both talked about Obsidian's pedigree and like what makes Avowed a very Obsidian game. So what, aside from Aora and that context and building off of the Pillars universe, what would you both say makes it an Obsidian game?
For me, it's really about our player-centric approach to roleplay. Our studio's motto is "Your world's your way." And so the way we really approach choice and consequence and everything else is just giving players opportunities to define who they are in this world, how they want to behave, like just what fantasy, what challenges they want to undertake. And so with all of the content we design, whether it's quests, companion relationships, or gameplay, which Gabe can talk to, we really try to create this player-shaped whole so that we're always leaving room for players to really step in, drive the game and the story forward, and just define who they are in this setting.
Yeah, from the gameplay perspective, right, if you look at Grounded, Grounded is your world's your way. You get to build whatever world you want.
Grounded was
in
great.
the context of
Still
Valve,
didn't
right?
finish that.
We tried to lean into that with the gameplay mechanics and sort of let the player, through the loadout system, through what companions you can choose, through the abilities they can choose, they're throwable that they can select, right? Just what does the player want to do for combat, and being able to support that in as many ways as possible.
So in the Dev Direct, you kind of swoop through very quickly. There's a lot there to take in. So as Tina said, we have some extended footage here, and we're actually gonna, we're gonna bust out our telestrators and we're gonna pause and say, okay, well, what did we just see here? So why don't we roll some of that footage and let's get into it. All right, so tell us, where in the game is this area? How do you encounter it even?
So this is Shatterscarp, which is the third region in the game, but what we're exploring here is just one tiny little adventure space in one corner of the region.
And is this something you could even, miss? Is this an optional area or something you're definitely going to hit?
It's absolutely missable. Discoverability and letting players be the authors of their own experience is obviously very important to us. So the content you're seeing here, the quests you're encountering, the little stories and nuggets of adventures you're finding, that's really for players who go out and seek it out.
So exploration gets rewarded, of course, and this is, from my understanding, a side quest too. So it's definitely something you can stumble on, decide to partake in or not. But I'm curious, who are these enemies? Because I feel like we just wandered into their territory and it's just a family having a good old time, and we're just killing them out of nowhere. So who are these enemies and why do we hate them?
Well, I don't think we hate them. Actually, they're fine. It's more that they just don't really. There are Zorups, right? They're from Pillars of Eternity. They don't really speak a language that we can understand, but they're very territorial, right? So you've stepped on their space. They're trying to get back their territory in this area, and yeah, they're just gonna take down whatever gets in their way.
Can I just call it? We've confirmed swimming. Swimming is part of this game now.
Yep.
Confirmed. But speaking of enemies, as we're going through this area, I'm just curious, what are the other types of enemies that you might encounter, and what does that difficulty progression look like? Because I know we're about midway through here, but perhaps later in the game, what does that look like?
Well, we've shown off ogres and we've
random
shown off,
bait, dude.
Big, scary-looking bears. But yeah, we have archetypes, right? So like healers and brute melee characters, brute range, people that are trying to use magic, melee attacks, right? So just a bunch of variety of enemies that you can fight and have to use the gameplay mechanics in order to defeat. Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff in the combat that actually I want to go back to. So if we can back that video up and go back to that first.
I want to see different biomes.
Speaking of gameplay mechanics.
Exactly. I have some questions here. Yeah. Okay. So you're armed. I see you immediately pull out a sword and a shield. It looked like there was a parry move that the player uses here, well, it's coming up here in a second. And then also charging the shield. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is our dual wielding system. Basically, the player has two loadouts, and you can put something in your offhand and a weapon in your primary hand. And we allow the player to mix and match one hand.
Not showing us any kind of real
so right there, what you're seeing is your sword
overlay
forward,
right now,
going into it and trying to close the gap in the distance, and having the ability to parry with your shield and power attack with your sword.
So there was a shielded enemy, and it felt like the sword and board stopped working. But then you also, right there, you pull somebody in, a little get over here. Talk to us about some of the different skills and abilities.
Yeah, so that's one of our ranged units that basically is out in the distance. You're using Into the Fray, which is the mechanic to allow you to pull the enemy closer to you. Again, we have power attack. That's a blocker. That's essentially not your basic melee attacks are just not going to go through it. So you're gonna have to use your power attack to be able to break their block.
Or you can swap to the wand if there's a shielded enemy, you're not getting through to them. So how often in the game do you find, maybe yourselves through the experience, I'm much more a magic player, I suspect I will be heading down more of the wanded path, but clearly there's diversity with enemies and diversity in how you need to approach them. So can you talk about how much you guys maybe in your play experiences have been swapping between them? What can we expect as players?
We definitely try to have these mechanics that are common amongst most weapons, but at the same time try to give the space across all the different weapon types. So if you're using the wand, there's a lot of homing going on there. There's a lot of there's a lot of, it's magic damage. It's going through their, it's going through their armor and stuff like that.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Versus, again, using a melee weapon where you're going to have to get closer to them. Yeah.
So a little bit personal style,
Yes.
a little bit like what are the enemies you're actually dealing with.
One of the great things about the system that Gabe's team has been building, though, is it's very flexible. And it
I do
supports
too,
players
Pinky. Yeah,
mixing and matching between weapons, between ability trees. Respecking is, pretty easy for players who really want to try
PC
something
gamers,
different.
It's
So
like-
when I'm playing, I kind of love to follow my
What will
sense
these
of
noobs
curiosity,
learn,
and
dude?
sometimes you'll find a new unique weapon with some pretty nice buffs on it, and maybe you'll decide to rock that for a while, even if it's not what you've been using previously.
So there is a skill tree in this game.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I love a good skill tree, so
yes.
it's good to confirm that.
One of the things we've done in terms of skills in the tree is we've tried to, pillars as classes, right? We wanted to be able to grab as many abilities from the trees as possible and sort of categorize them a little bit differently so that the player doesn't feel like they're locked into a single choice at the start of the game. They can kind of mix and match, between different abilities, so you can get some you have some variety. You can choose to kind of commit to being a fighter, right, per se, but it's not an enforced kind of class setup.
And as Carrie said, you can respec if you don't like the direction it went down.
Yeah.
I love that.
But there are definitely some pretty fun and wild combinations, like, you can do your traditional sword and board, or, play more of a magic wielder with a grimoire and a wand. But you can also take a pistol and a shield and just
Half of
charge around
Exile
the
skill tree is
battlefield
entered the
and
chat.
fight
That's
characters
right,
at
dude.
medium distance.
Yeah, I'm
And
down.
You can
Yeah,
use
let's
some of
go.
the different abilities that you're seeing in this playthrough to
Cappy,
support
what's
that
up?
flexibility.
And on that note
Nice.
too,
Are you
dual
feeling
wielding
any
wands,
better?
I probably mentioned this last time we were in an interview together for Showcase Extended that I was so excited about it. And when I was down at Irvine, the team was very generous to let me play a very early build. And I got to experience the dual wielding wands, and it's so snappy and fun. It's exactly what I was thinking it would be. But I'm curious because we're seeing a little bit of that now, where you have different spellcasting effects on each. So I imagine there's probably some really incredible combos. Have you seen some special combos yourselves? Maybe
Combo
what testers
breaker.
have managed to pull off?
Yeah, definitely. With Into the Fray, you could use like a fireball ability that creates like an AoE on the ground, right? And then pull the enemy into the fire,
I love
and
it.
they land, they get
Devious.
on fire. But in terms of the wands, right? Like what you're seeing there is a sort of enchanted wand, and there are potentially other elements that you can maybe find. But Pillars is really known for their unique weapons and the unique permutations of enchantments that you can kind of see on them. So, yeah.
Oh, I
So
need
in
to
this
turn off my
particular
flipping
area,
music. My bad,
I
guys.
did also get to play through this part, and first I realized you need to take out the healer first, otherwise it's like
Yeah, I was thinking
going
the
down
same
an
thing,
escalator.
Tim,
You're not making
Yes.
a lot of progress.
Eat your heart out,
This is
Hogwarts
where
Legacy.
I found that you really start to put these things together. So
there's
you-
two
you
companions
froze
there, yeah.
that larger enemy. So sort of talk about some of these elements and how you can even use them outside of combat.
On and off
Yeah,
for a
so,
while. Yeah, I'm sorry, Cappy.
Yeah, we have an elemental system where you can
Good to see you,
light
friendo.
guys on fire, you can freeze them, you can shock them. We have objects in the world that the player can interact with. They're not just on weapons, right? They're not just on wands, right? You might find something with a sword that has it, right? Certain abilities might cause elemental damage. Also, your companions themselves, could have potentially some damage there that.
There was something when I had gotten to play where I wandered somewhere else and ran into an area that was gated off, and I was able actually to use that freeze to help to progress in the exploration.
Yes, yeah. And so we have objects like that. We also have, maybe being able to burn brambles. Yeah.
Yeah, you can destroy barriers to find new areas to explore. You can freeze paths in the water to maybe reach ledges that you can't normally. Lots of fun options there.
And a lot of what we saw, like we saw a Tanglefoot ability, for instance, which was really cool because when you're freezing an enemy, you're totally freezing them. But when you're trapping them with the Tanglefoot ability, like ranged attackers can still get you. So there's a lot of nuance there that as a player you have to consider. But also a lot that was built off of the Pillars of Eternity universe. Like Tanglefoot is directly associated from those games. So I'm curious, like, how did you guys hone in on these abilities? Like, what are the combos you were thinking about? Anything that you brought over and maybe changed or made new too?
Yeah, so for Tanglefoot, but because in an action first-person game, it's all about movement and trying to like crowd control. For Tanglefoot, right, it was about also creating space. So we already had freezing. You're crowd controlling that way, but with Tanglefoot, it's a little bit unique where they're rooted, and so they don't move, but they can still do attacks. So it's about trying to find that balance where you're not overpowering the enemy, and there's again choice and consequence for these mechanics, so that the player just doesn't just stomp everybody all the time, So
well, let's go back a little bit because we got an opportunity to talk about that very Obsidian style depth and breadth of gameplay. I have watched the developer direct so many times, I've memorized all of your guys' lines, so that is directly lifted from there. But there's another very Obsidian element to Avowed, which is branching dialogue and how you make choices within the story too. And Carrie, you alluded to some consequences potentially if you make one decision or another, but it's again very much like playing your own way. So can you talk about just how impactful like those choices that you make are, and that branching dialogue, and how that can result in different paths for the player?
Absolutely. So again, for us, creating these choices, like the big ones that affect the outcome of a quest, or the well-being of certain characters or communities, are just as important as the smaller choices that you make, and navigating a dialogue and kind of in subtle ways influencing your relationship with another character. But all of it is really centered around letting the player be the main character in this setting. And so what we're seeing here is the players, they've been exploring this grotto. They're finding the bodies of these dead soldiers and kind of picking up pieces of a story along the way. And so here they finally found the survivor, and talking through them about what happened and getting a little bit more information.
Well, the NPC looks
so
odd
there is a
because of
moment
his
that's
race.
going to come up after this where the player can
That's probably why he's actually got
the guy
skills
who ran
and
away,
stuff. So that might
and
be
make
why
a pretty
you think he
impactful
looks
choice
odd.
with him about how they
That's a
decide
certain
to,
type of
to
race
navigate
in this
that
universe.
conversation. And they can either, it's
got
very obvious that this
scales,
guy
he's
was
got
in over
sharp
his head,
teeth.
and then they can either sympathize with him and console him a little bit, or challenge him for his cowardice and for the way he abandoned his unit, and the way the player
Alpha
navigates
doesn't
that
help, but
conversation definitely has big
Soup
consequences
probably
for
isn't
how
aware of
that encounter
that.
plays out.
So you mentioned your player being the,
The
the
world
main
they were
character, but they're
either.
not the solo character.
I don't
We
think
see
it
in
looks
this
too bad,
conversation,
honestly, for
Giada
alpha
and
content.
Kai, I want to say. Can you tell us about the relationship with companions?
I've seen
and
stuff that looks
how they
way
interact
worse,
both in
honestly.
the story and in gameplay?
Sure. So, your companions are your traveling partners in your journey through the Living Lands.
I
They
can't
all
remember
have
what
deep
the
ties
race
to
is
different
actually.
regions
What's
of the Living
race
Lands,
called?
and they all have their
what
own
are those,
personal
those
reasons.
people called?
For
They're like a
wanting to
fish
ally
people,
with the
right?
player and help
Isn't that
them
what they
resolve
are?
the
I'm
big
Wallen.
conflicts
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
encountering
thanks.
over the course of the game. So they're your allies, in some ways your advisors, your local guides.
They're like a
and they
fish
provide a
people,
lot of
basically.
additional commentary and context that reveals something both about their character, but also
Aren't
about
most
the
of them
corner
like
of the world that you're
druids?
exploring. And
Kind
Kai in
of.
particular has a pretty deep history with Shatterscarp that comes out a little bit over the course of this quest as he starts to see how the region and the people have changed in his
Been so
absence,
long,
and
dude.
maybe where he let them down. But obviously they're also your allies in battle, and that's something that Gabe can speak to.
Yeah, so for the companions, we wanted to make sure that they had their role.
I guess not most of them are
in the
druids,
combat
huh? I
systems,
guess
and
they
so,
could be any
again, like I
class,
talked about.
I'm probably
Kai
just
can, help
thinking
you with
about
the burning brambles, and
the
Giada
one you
is,
get on your
is
team and
healing,
stuff.
right? And so Kai's kind of your tank. He has an ability that's
Deadfire.
called taunt. Or it's not called taunt, but it's a taunt, and a taunt allows you to basically make the enemy take aggression from them and start to focus on Kai, and then Giada can have the ability to heal your party.
Right,
yeah, just
coastal and
they have
island.
impacting
Right, there you
Should
go.
we
Thanks,
assume there will
dude.
be
Tim,
other
I knew Tim
companions
would
throughout
know.
the game as well?
Yes, you'll meet a couple more. Kai and Giada are just two of them.
Yeah, there you go.
I just
Very
know
much.
Obsidian known for some
Yes,
pretty
exactly.
great
I was
companions.
going to
over
say
the
the
years.
same thing. Yeah, exactly. It's certainly an expectation. But you mentioned Shatterscarp. I'm already like really sad for Kai, and I already want to console him because I feel like there's some history to uncover there. But what is Shatterscarp? That's obviously where we are in this mission, in this extended footage that we've been seeing from Developer Direct. What is the context to Shatterscarp that we should know?
Yeah, so as you can see, it's a very arid environment. A lot of the locals who have settled here are originally from Rawatai, which returning Pillars players will recognize as kind of this
That's
this
funny,
very
Kathy,
fun
yeah.
but somewhat militaristic culture, which Kai originally comes from as well. So you've got this sort of very hardy little settlement on the cliffs overlooking the coast called Thirdborn. But what the player encounters here is a ramp up in tensions between their people, the Adiran Empire, and the locals. Again, here primarily settled around tie-ins, as everybody's sort of trying to negotiate some conflicts that are taking place and starting to grow in the Living Lands. You're also seeing the stronger effects of something called the Dream Scourge, which is this spiritual plague that you've been sent here to investigate. And just to add into that mix, we've also got an archmage who has taken up one corner of the map and created her own little frozen labyrinth there. So there are a lot of different characters, a lot of different tensions to navigate, and that the player's going to get to encounter here.
Carrie, stop, you're saying too much.
So we're noticing just with the player, they're mantling their way through. It's a very vertical area, and there was actually one part of the footage where they look down and there's enemies there, and they choose not to engage. So if you could just talk about like the size of this area and just like how that affords the ability to like choose even just what to engage with and what not
Your
to.
literal path.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like it's open zone, right? So comparable to Outer Worlds areas on the larger side, and multiple paths essentially to be able to tackle combat situations
Or avoid them.
Or avoid them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this area is entirely discoverable, which means it's also entirely missable. And I really want to give a shout out to Tyler McCombs, who's the area designer who set up the little grotto we're exploring. As you mentioned, there's a wonderful sense of verticality, just a lot of wonderful nooks and crannies to explore, and that's something that we really wanted to take advantage of, and also set up, as Gabe mentioned, really fun combat encounters around that let you either just jump in, charge right in, or take a more tactical and measured approach. And you see that even in this first combat that you encounter when you dive through that skull's mouth and you come up out of the water. Our playtester here takes the rightmost path, which is the sneaky one, but you can also just, Leroy Jenkins your way up the middle and just jump right into the fray.
I love that. Well, we got so much additional detail in this podcast. Really appreciate you both joining us. But before we wrap up, we have just a couple more questions too. Developer Direct is like an interesting show for us because we hand over complete reins to the developers, wanting to give you all an opportunity to talk about the craft, the very Obsidian craft in your guys' case, that goes into the game and how the team thinks about things when you're putting things together. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that kind of team culture and also both of your roles. Like, how
have
do
they talked
integrate?
much about like the
character
creation side of this, or are you pretty locked in as far as like who your character is as the game player?
Sure. So
I was kind of
sidetracked.
I had to
on the
address
project,
something
I'm responsible
on my phone,
for
sorry.
setting out the vision and helping to guide the team in all of our different efforts towards that, and make sure that we're really building a cohesive and exciting player experience. And both the joy and the challenge of that is, RPGs are so feature rich and so content rich. We have so many different systems supporting our combat, our exploration, and then there's the way we build quests, the way we seed them through the world, the way we try to nudge players towards them without being too heavy-handed about it. And so, we're always trying to balance how these elements work together to, again, create an experience that's cohesive and consistent, but also allow room for surprises and nuance and fun, and not get so precious about the dogma of what we're building that we don't allow for those expressions of creativity and those things that we as developers love to create, and we know players are going to love to find.
Yeah, from as my role as gameplay director, I'm trying to direct a team for that's kind of more revolved around conversations, exploration, and combat. Right, that's kind of like
that's what I thought.
The big
dude.
overseen parts of the game, and just working with Carrie to just make sure that we're following our pillars.
If you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Following our pillars.
I didn't think I'd heard him say anything about it yet in here, and
back and forth fights, right? About
it's obviously a big deal for a lot of people in a game like this.
The blocker should be holding a spear.
You were absolutely right, by the way.
So
that's unfortunate not to hear anything about.
Making sure that we're working together to be able to get the gameplay features that are fun, make sure it fits in the lore, make sure it fits part of the world. Make sure we're not doing anything that's maybe doesn't fit within the Obsidian brand, right? Like things that are mechanics that are too binary, right? And more, a little bit more, less black and white, and a little bit more like how RPG players would like them to be. So yeah.
And one of the great things about our studio culture is, so many of us are RPG fans, and I feel like one of the real strengths of being a mid-sized developer is we are, just large enough to be ambitious with the gameplay and the content we build, but also, small enough that we can still be nimble and again, still, allow people to take big swings. And the Leviathan Hollow that we see in this this playthrough is a really great example of that. Originally, it was scoped to be much smaller, and again, we found that the area designer Tyler, who was working on that, was had a schedule, things were going great, and so his producer and his lead kind of, looked at the schedule and said, yeah, if you want, you've got time to make something more out of this. And we've got an excellent showpiece here that, again, is, a wonderful combination of, strong planning and coordination on the production side, to be sure, but also just some really great initiative, from the team.
So it's something I've been wondering since Avowed was first revealed a few years back with that teaser. And that is like, what can we glean from the title? When I think of like Avowed, like you can vow revenge, you can be avowed enemies. It feels like very personal. I'm just curious, like what we can take away from the title as I want more right now, but this is all we're going to get today. But just what can we be thinking about here?
So I won't say too much this time, Gabe, but so as the player character, you're the envoy. So you're a representative of the Adirian Empire. You are the personal representative of the Emperor himself, and you're sent here on this mission to investigate the spiritual plague. So on the one hand, you're vowed to the Emperor and the Empire that you serve, but while you're in the Living Lands, you might discover another unique connection to something else that's very close to you. So this game is very much about choosing your loyalties and choosing what matters most to you. And that's all I'll say about this.
All right. Well, I know what matters most to me is getting to play this game. We'll talk more about that, but we will hear a little bit more because coming up, I want to say this Sunday, Carrie, you're going to be on Drop Frames with JP and Co and Ezekiel. So make sure you tune into that. Anything else, like before we let you go, though, that you want to talk about?
I just can't wait for players to jump into the Living Lands for themselves and explore all that it has to offer. Again, one of the big delights of being a developer on a game like this is creating so much for players to find and knowing that not everybody's going to seek it out and not everybody's going to find it, but knowing that the players who do are really going to enjoy the secrets they discover.
I know that we've talked about a lot of stuff, but it's still just
a slice.
Yes.
I want it.
I know. Yes, absolutely. And we did get an opportunity to dive in a little bit deeper. So thank you both again so much for coming out and being able to talk to us. But yes, it is such a small slice of it. So I'm excited to see more. And we did announce in Developer Direct that the game is coming out in fall 2024. So it won't be too long before we'll all be able to do so. And otherwise, we will see you for a regularly scheduled episode of the podcast with a regular length of a podcast later this week. So you get 2 in 1 week. So please enjoy that. And thank you again, Carrie and Gabe.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. I mean, appreciate it, Tinwin. It's not a whole lot more for me really that alleviates any of my concerns really for what I wanted. So it's like I've already touched on that, Soup. Thanks though, buddy. Appreciate it. Touched on that yesterday, I think. Yeah. I mean, I've never been worried about this game and what it was going to bring to the table gameplay wise. It's Obsidian, dude. They do a good job with these titles. Yeah. So, I think personally, this is, never been an issue with, personally what I was expecting to see, gameplay wise, content wise, necessarily as much as what I wanted to see out of the, options given to you as deep of a game that I want to see for how you're able to play it as an RPG-driven experience coming from the same world as the Pillars games, that's my concern. So we'll see what happens with it. It's still pretty bleak and vague on that front, we still haven't gotten much. We still don't know much. I think the game's going to be fun. I don't have any reservations about that. The content will be good. The game will be fun. Obsidian's a banger developer, they do a great job performance. They do a great job on content. It's going to be rough for me to see a game be maybe a little bit lackluster on the front of something as deep as Pillars coming out of that same universe. If they, I want to see them bring it, dude. I want to see them bring it, son. I want that immersion. I want the same kind of feel from that. I want the Pillars first person experience. That's what I want. I don't know that we're getting that, That's what worries me. That's it, really. And, the video was good. Didn't really alleviate any of those reservations I have, though. And I appreciate it, Tim Wynn. Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, I mean, Demon Souls favorites, one of the favorites for Souls. Yeah, I mean, most people's favorites, Bloodborne, That's why most people refer to the it's like Soulsborne games, because Bloodborne is traditionally one of the favorites, but Demon Souls is seen as like kind of the beginning of a lot of the Soulsborne games, really, like the beginning of it all to an extent, that and DS1. So yeah, no doubt. And what up, Axel Fire? What's up, buddy? So, yeah, Cappy. So one of my best friends while I was in the military is actually survival specialist. He's special ops. And I know all about that stuff. So one of the things that they had to do as a survival specialist was basically get to finish their training and to officially become a special ops member of the military. They had to be dropped off into basically a frozen tundra and survive for a period of time on their own. And they get dropped off with a rabbit. That's it. A rabbit. And literally have to survive off the land and just a rabbit. So talk about eating eyeballs and stuff like that. So I know all about that kind of situation. I've heard it from my buddy. Yeah, they're pretty gnarly dudes. Yeah, they're pretty gnarly. There you go. Exactly, Pinky. Yeah. So it's a wild thing. Those people that know how to do that kind of thing and are like kind of really good at living off the land and survival. There's a very, very small percentage of people that actually make it through those kinds of training situations, and that was the big hurdle for that career field in the military. It wasn't the career field I was in, but that's a big hurdle for to finish the training, and a lot of people fell out of it at that point. Yeah, it is fun. I mean, those people that live that lifestyle, they become accustomed to that lifestyle, and they live that lifestyle. It doesn't surprise me that somebody even at that age is still doing well when a lot of people fell out. It's a lifestyle that you become accustomed to it. You live that lifestyle, and it's easier for you to do it. No, I mean it'll get harder the older you get, but you're still going to be able to do it better than anybody that's not accustomed to that kind of survival kind of experience. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me all that much, to be honest. But it is funny. Yeah. Yeah. So Axel, what's up, man? Yep. Dude, that's pretty funny, dude. I like it. Yo, great news segment, everybody. I appreciate it very much. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the industry. There always is. There's a bunch of hype stuff going on right now about this whole Pal World situation, and it's been interesting to cover it, especially since it's a game that we've been playing since the release of the early access, version of the game and everything. And we'll continue to cover it and address these controversial kind of topics coming out of that game and stuff. So we're gonna play more of it today. We're gonna have a good time. We got to start over apparently because our server that our world was on apparently took a big fat dump, and so we'll get in here and we'll have another great day of playing Pal World and get another fresh start, I guess. So I don't know. Hope everybody has had a great start to your week. Happy Tuesday. If anybody's hanging out and you're not familiar with what we do, this is our jam, man. We always start off with video gaming news. We stream 6 days a week live. We start off at roughly 6 a.m. CST CDT. We begin with video gaming news where we cover, you know, a lot of the more hot topics that have come up for the industry over the past 24 hours. We flesh those kinds of ideas out, try to stay current on what's happening in the industry before we move on and play video games for the rest of the day, which we're about to do right now. So we have an amazing community here, awesome people, always you know, presenting a community where we are welcoming, inclusive, taking care of one another, trying to be void of toxicity, negativity, presenting a civil atmosphere where we don't necessarily have to agree all the time, but, you know, you can address these disagreements in a civil manner and not get, you know, too crazy about it and stuff. You know, just try to have a nice chill community where we all have a good time and enjoy video games and you know, long-standing community where we really do try to take care of one another. So if you can dig that, then come be a part of what we do when we are live 6 days a week, man. All of our previous content, most of it anyways, is out there on the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel. I do my very best to make sure that the video gaming news segments, pertinent, you know, specific articles out of the news segments, funny clips and highlights, gameplay episodes, playthroughs, all that stuff is out there for everybody to go take a look at if you missed any of it and you want to look at it. So if you're enjoying this, go take a look at any of that other stuff we have out there and come be a part of what we're doing when we're live, man. We always are on the lookout for more cool people to be a part of what we're doing when we are live and spread the good vibes, man. So other than that, stay healthy, stay safe, be kind. Happy Tuesday. I'm going to run us our outro for the video gaming news segment real quick. But as soon as it's over, we will be starting up our gameplay stuff. I'm not going anywhere. The stream's not going down. It's just a nice segue out of the news segment. And as soon as I'm back and the outro's over, we'll start gaming. You guys rock. Happy Tuesday. Be right back. Thanks for the horns, Kirby.